Every origin of Tokka and Rahzar, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It is 1991 and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are everywhere fighting off the bad guys, but then there's this dude Shredder who wants the Turtles out of the picture. And how does he decide to do that? By using a particular professor to force and mutate two animals using the TGRI ooze and creating something disastrous. The result was an alligator snapping turtle and a gray wolf with enormous bodies and physiques covered in spikes who looked like they could easily flip buildings and toss them aside like simple toys. Yikes! That is Tokka and Rahzar for you. However, throughout Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze, the movie that very first introduced them, they acted like giant babies, just talking and behaving the way they would want to, and continued acting childish around Shredder, as one would do with their mother, until he finally forced obedience into them one day. This 1991 movie should have been enough, but over the next 30 plus years, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles kept dragging them back and reimagining their characters and designs, and continuously placing them back in the franchise. In one version, Tokka appears to be an old cosmic fire beast that protects something strong enough to endanger entire universes, while one of Rahzar's forms is shown to be Shredder's most vicious human henchman, having been twisted into something hardly recognizable. Which is why today we are tracking every origin of Tokka and Rahzar across movies, cartoons, comics, and everything in between. Who are Tokka and Rahzar at their core? Before diving into the full details, it is best to dissect their characters to their very foundations. Tokka is the turtle-based dude in its most basic form, large and armored and nearly impossible to move. He is not built for speed, rather for impact. Anyone facing him would be practically facing a wall. On the other hand, Rahzar is the canine and wolf-based counterpart, the one who is more agile and feral, being the more dangerous of the two, especially in close combat. Together they are shown as Shredder's mutant response to Raphael, Leonardo, and Donatello, who also become a brutal mirror to the Turtles. Talking about the very first version, they were no criminal masterminds. They were not scheming anything. They were simply animal-based mutants with unmatchable physical prowess, with no impulse control in sight. Now, coming to aspects that remain the same or change throughout each continuity, three aspects of them remain constant. Before mutation, they were human soldiers, martial artists, zoo animals, and even cosmic beasts. For the question of who actually creates them, sometimes it is Krang, other times it is Shredder, and sometimes it is more like a discovery that happened rather than a creation. Even their intelligence levels can go from complete tactical, with a personality having actual substance, to literal children in mutant bodies. This shifting identity is the whole point of covering the topic on these two. The characters of Tokka and Rahzar didn't get famous just because they were brought into one story and then stayed consistent. They have become an interesting duo due to the fact that the franchise treats them more like a template, something that they could use to keep rebuilding from scratch and putting different labels of their origins on them. And all of this just helps us understand what that particular era of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles tried to do. Keeping these things in mind, we shall now delve into each version, as each one is a reaction to the previous version. Primary origin, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze, 1991. This is where it all begins. Everything else we will cover builds on this, so buckle your seatbelts and pay good attention here. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 The Secret of the Ooze hit theaters in 1991 as the second live-action film. However, the production hit a roadblock with some complicated rights-related issues with their two characters, Bebop and Rocksteady, Shredder's original mutant henchmen from the 1987 cartoon. Due to this, the movie needed new mutant heavies as replacements, and that is where Tokka and Rahzar come into the picture, as actual replacements. This piece of information is very important, as it shapes everything about how they have been written. So how does it all start? Early on in the movie, it is established that TGRI, Techno Global Research Industries, was the source of the mutagen used to create the Turtles. After making it through the first movie, Shredder orders the Foot Clan to raid TGRI and steal a canister of the ooze, following which they abduct Professor Jordan Perry, who is the main scientist, and bring him to Shredder. The plan was simple: force Professor Perry to harness the mutagen and produce two animals strong enough to finish off the Turtles. The Professor was mainly called to oversee the entire process, to avoid any accidental mistakes at all. The animals selected for the mutation process were a gray wolf and an alligator snapping turtle from the Bronx Zoo. In the movie, we can see the mutation happening quite fast, with the ooze's effect taking place and Tokka and Rahzar becoming massively and heavily built almost instantaneously. But the mutation doesn't just simply take place. So what's the twist? The professor did not want Shredder to have two perfect super soldiers, so while overseeing the entire process, he quietly tampered with the formula, which turned out to be a semi-success. Now that is something I would like to see. The two creatures come out monstrous in terms of raw power. They were gigantic, durable, and powerful enough to fight head-on with the Ninja Turtles, especially in direct combat. So physically speaking, Shredder got everything he wanted, but mentally they were no different from infants. Due to the mutation being interrupted in the middle of the process, their intelligence never fully developed, leaving them with a stunted intelligence. Their cognition was at the level of nothing more than baby animals, while being inside mutant bodies. Now we come to the Mama moment, which is arguably the most well-known beat from the movie involving these two, and it works well too because it is played with genuine humor while also maintaining the slightly strange undertone. When Tokka and Rahzar become conscious of their surroundings, the first thing they do is search for a parent figure, which is when they notice Shredder first. And just like new hatchlings who imprint on the first figure they see, these two did the same and began referring to him as Mama. But Shredder is clearly not interested in being anyone's mother figure. I mean, obviously. He physically dominates them, forces them into submission, and reframes their relationship as one of master and servants. But their obedience still stemmed from their initial imprint, not from Shredder's attempts at submission. They don't follow Shredder because they comprehend his strategy or have similar objectives. It is their attachment from day one that makes them follow his orders and instructions. This aspect of their origin makes it special, as they are not a threat the way Bebop and Rocksteady were, but in the way a natural force would be: intense, unreasonable, aimless, and capable of inflicting pain and devastation everywhere. The first significant conflict in the movie quickly addresses the elephant in the room. The Turtles' usual strategy of striking hard and quickly while making use of the surroundings does not really work with the two mutant babies. Tokka and Rahzar continue to move around while absorbing all the damage that would usually drop any other opponent. Because of their enormous physique and their long-lasting stamina, traditional approaches would fall short. After witnessing such a situation, Donatello and Professor Perry are forced into a problem-solving mode on realizing Shredder's true intentions. They would require something to stop the two forces without direct physical intervention, as direct physical contact was off the table now. Now that sounds like a sticky situation, not gonna lie. So far so good, but what was the solution ultimately? The solution was an anti-mutagen, which is a counteragent designed to reverse the mutation. However, the actual challenge would be to make Tokka and Rahzar ingest this anti-mutagen, and for this they came up with donuts. Yep, that is right, donuts. Donatello and Perry hide the anti-mutagens inside donuts and use Tokka and Rahzar's animal instincts against them by getting it into their system via food. They were simply hungry, so they had the donuts. It was that simple, apparently. After this scene, the final confrontation took place at the Dockshore Club. Post-ingestion, the Turtles used carbon dioxide from fire extinguishers to speed up the demutation process, as CO2 reacts with the anti-mutagen already present in their systems and speeds everything up, reverting the monsters back into their original forms. What's really special about Tokka and Rahzar in the 1991 movie is that they are meant to be these baby monsters from the start, and the movie sticks to that idea. While in all the other versions they either upgrade these characters' intellect or totally reimagine what they are. This version is the only one that gets the true picture of when a mutation goes wrong. It doesn't always create a supervillain, sometimes it just produces something more like a natural disaster, but with a face. This tragic comedy element, albeit being dangerous and pathetic, is exactly what every later version has been responding to. It basically sets the foundation. 1987 cartoon origin: Dirk Savage, Mutant Hunter. Now we will hop onto the classic animated series of 1987, which is a good example of using the same names and characters, but giving them a different direction. Man, I always love a good cartoon. Tokka and Rahzar appear in the episode Dirk Savage, Mutant Hunter, which introduces them as part of a plot involving a hunter who's been rounding up mutants. And right from the jump, these two read differently from the movie versions. So what exactly about them changes in this cartoon? In the movie, Rahzar and Tokka are pretty naive. They can hardly communicate well with each other. They are driven solely by animal instincts. On the other hand, in the cartoon, Rahzar and Tokka are able to converse, able to plot and scheme, and instead of acting as natural forces, they act like real monsters. They are no longer babies in a mutant body, rather they have come to be operating criminals. While their mindsets seem to have changed, their physical body still has the same characteristics. So mostly there is a significant gap between the cognitive abilities of these two, when compared in the two pieces, the movie and the 1987 cartoon. Another characteristic that the cartoon does carry over for Tokka is his insatiable appetite, which is how he gets lured into Dirk Savage's trap. Essentially, the animal instinct isn't gone, it is just redirected. So instead of making him helpless, it makes him exploitable. Another vital point to speak about in this continuity is the framing around Tokka and Rahzar. Here they are represented more as captured mutants who have been caught up in the middle of someone else's mess, because they have their own objectives, apart from simply following Shredder and his commands. Because of this, they seem to have different characteristics from the ones portrayed in the movies. Here, they aren't mere inventions designed to serve certain purposes. They are two mutants navigating a world that is always ready to take advantage of them. To speak in a gist, this was the first major piece in Tokka and Rahzar's history that fell in the same names different function category. The 1987 animation took two characters well known to the audience who were associated with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie and assigned them a notably elevated intelligence, a distinct contextual backstory, and a very different narrative. This alteration is important as it establishes a pattern for future adaptations. Their reimagined characters and the boost to their intelligence, as well as presenting them as sharp criminals, paved the way for subsequent reinterpretations. This particular version shows that names and looks are flexible enough to work with pretty much any backstory one would give them, which is exactly what Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles kept doing for the next 30 years. Turtles Forever 2009, Human Troopers turned Tokka and Rahzar. Turtles Forever is that 2009 animated crossover movie that brought multiple Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles continuities together, more specifically the 2003 animated series and even the 1987 cartoon, and brought such changes to the two mutants that would be easily missed by the eyes if not paid close attention to. So the villain here is Utrom Shredder, also known as Shirel, from the 2003 series, and Shirel is what one would describe as being the more dangerous version of Shredder. Why, you ask? Because this Shredder doesn't use the mutagen on zoo animals, he goes after human troops. The Tokka and Rahzar that appear in Turtles Forever are the product of Shirel using the ooze from the 1987 universe to mutate none other than human troops. Therefore, this is not a mutation of zoo animals, but rather that of humans. To be more specific, this creation process is intentional and militarized, rather than the first film's spontaneous experiment that took place. By 2009, Tokka and Rahzar's presence had made a lasting impact, to the point of their names being used as a design language, being Shredder's big mutant heavies, without needing to stick to any particular origin story. Shirel isn't just copying the Tokka and Rahzar from the previous movie, he is creating his own versions with whatever is available in that particular universe. At this point, their names and outlines were basically like military codes. You know what a Tokka is supposed to be, even if you aren't aware of his composition or origin. This aspect really changed how the franchise handled these two characters. They really went from being unique creations for a specific movie to being the go-to mutant types that show up again and again, and Turtles Forever fuels this more. One more thing worth knowing about their role in the film. Despite appearing on the cover of Turtles Forever, Tokka and Rahzar are largely reduced to cameos. They have very little dialogue, little screen time, and no on-screen names. Along with other mutant foot soldiers, they arrive and immediately attack the turtle teams near the party wagon, and are instantly rendered unconscious by the vehicle's firepower. Therefore, despite Shirel's interest in their characters and origin, Tokka and Rahzar from Turtles Forever become background characters that you won't notice if you blink. This shows how, unlike Shredder in the first movie, Shirel has no sentimental attachment to Tokka and Rahzar. They are just two warriors in a mutant army to him. 2012 Nickelodeon era, the most radical reinvention. This is where the direction takes a complete 180 degrees with Tokka and Rahzar's backstory. This Nickelodeon series rebuilds the characters from scratch, using completely different source material for each one. Let us begin with the starting point, with Rahzar's character. In the 2012 series, Rahzar did not begin as a wolf, he started off as a human being. Here, Chris Bradford is introduced as a famous martial artist, one who is legitimately decorated with public respect. Alongside that, he is also one of Shredder's most important men. Bradford has been embedded in the human world for the very purpose of serving Shredder's plans, and he does an excellent job at it. As a human, he initially comes in contact with the Turtles, which ultimately results in his first mutation. Bradford then turns into Dog Pound, a massive hunched dog-based mutant with some human qualities still intact, after the uncontrolled but planned experiment. But this did not erase the fact that he was still monstrous. Now what turns Dog Pound into Rahzar is the second hit of mutagen, so when he gets hit with the mutagen again, the results go further. The human aspects of the body that were still left in Dog Pound get completely stripped away, and are replaced by a form more skeletal and more savage, more wolf-like. This is when we get our Rahzar. Unlike the movie version, Rahzar's visuals here are more unsettling than the kind the movie audience is used to. In contrast to the 1991 movie, Rahzar here has a more elongated and gaunt body, which seems to be continually growing, indicating that the mutation must have gone too far. Even though Rahzar has undergone 2 transformations, remnants of Bradford's personality are still evident in his competitive drive, aggressive nature, and even his ego, which do not seem to have changed with the physical body. Rahzar here is no mindless being. He is a human enforcer whose body has gone through enough transformations to be no longer recognizable as a human. This distinct personality beneath all is exactly what makes him stand out from the 1991 character. Beneath the multiple layers of mutations lies a being with a history that adds a personal dimension to this character. The 2012 series frequently explored the concept of mutation as body horror, and Rahzar exemplifies this. Bradford did not ask for this. His loyalty to Shredder brought him here, resulting in a body he barely recognizes. Now, this backstory enriches Rahzar's origin story beyond just being a wolf mutated by the ooze. Coming to Tokka's character in this era, he isn't a mutant at all. Yep, you heard that right. In fact, he is reimagined as an ancient Volcanthian fire beast, one of the 6 cosmic monsters. These creatures are part of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles' larger cosmological mythology, who are massive beings existing in a universe that is present in the franchise's sidelines. Tokka is practically kaiju scale in this version, essentially meaning that his body is definitely still big enough to destroy a good number of buildings, but this physique did not develop from a mutation or some experiment. His body is covered in spikes containing lava-like energy and falls in the Volcanthian classification. No scientist or a canister of ooze created him. He seems to have existed before the majority of what we consider to be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles universe. In this mythology, the Utrum gave Tokka the job of watching over a piece of Heart of Darkness, which is an artifact this precious that even the Utrum, who are very ancient and have a good understanding of the cosmos, saw the need to assign it a special guardian for protection. The Heart of Darkness isn't simply a fragile item, it is a device capable of endangering and possibly annihilating entire universes if it ends up in the wrong hands. I mean, look at the whole picture. We started with a mutated snapping turtle who imprinted on Shredder, and now we stand and look at this cosmic protector of an ancient universe-threatening power. If this isn't a complete 180 from where we started, then I don't know what is. Over the course of the franchise's 30 years, whatever Tokka stands for has been stretched so thin that the name is essentially the only thing that unites all of the various different versions. Now, if a character is being redesigned so much, might as well fully commit to it than do it half-heartedly, right? Comics, IDW main continuity. Tokka and Rahzar did not have a significant comics presence for most of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles' publishing history. They were originally drawn for a film, then picked up for a 1987 cartoon series, followed by alternating between certain animations and toy lines. However, this changes in IDW's run on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Their introduction here is worth paying attention to because what IDW does is something very unexpected. In the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles IDW issue number 111, Old Hob has a snapping turtle and a gray wolf locked up in a holding cell at Mutant Town's Mutanimals headquarters. When Kurai arrives to discuss a particular deal on behalf of the Foot Clan and sees the two captives, she is immediately interested in taking them into the Foot Clan. The twist here is that the IDW comics have represented Tokka and Rahzar back as their baby mutant selves, revisiting the 1991 movie. So mentally, they are on the level of infants once again. So their introduction here is one that is definitely funny, because it is like, take these two mutant babies. They are apparently fighters and for some reason have a lot of groups chasing to get a hand on them. A stark shift from the recent beast-like developments given to them. The arc that follows their introduction is genuinely messy, but in the best way possible. In issue number 114, after Kurai shows up and attempts to transport them, things go haywire quickly when Tokka and Rahzar get loose in Mutant Town. It plays out pretty much the way one would expect when two giant mutant infants get lost in a bustling city, all scared and disoriented. Coming to issue number 115, this is where Bebop and Rocksteady show up and run into Tokka and Rahzar for the first time in the comics. The encounter was, to say the least, chaotic. The Turtles, Kurai, and everyone else had to get involved to sort the whole matter out. Nonetheless, this was the point where finally all four of them were brought together in the franchise. The IDW version does something that most continuities fail to show. It depicts Tokka and Rahzar as individuals with arcs rather than mere enforcers who get thrown into combat. They are not villains per se, but mutant children who got caught between groups, who wanted to do nothing but use them for their own advantage, going beyond being Shredder's instruments. If we look at it, it's pretty wild that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles franchise is still going strong 30 years later, especially considering it all came from two characters who were never really supposed to be a big deal. Well, that was pretty much it. One snapping turtle and one wolf, both turned into mutants, and characters who no one predicted would have this much success. Back in 1991, the two were brought in as replacements for a movie sequel, when the issue with the rights of the characters was still not resolved. Both were taken from the Bronx Zoo and put through the mutation process, which resulted in two massive creatures with insane strength and stamina, which became the blueprint for further character redesigns. Okay, now we shall bring the video to a close, but which version worked out the best for you? Was it the classic original Dumb Monsters movie, who nailed some good old humor, or was it their later reimaginations as mutants? Perhaps the most unique perspective they took with the Cosmic Fire Beast and Volcanthian Fire Beast? Leave your responses in the comments section below, and do let us know if you want us to do any more such videos, whether on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles universe or on other duo characters. We will definitely get down to it. And please don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. That's all for today. Have a great day.